High above the placid waters of the lake known as the God's Eye, dusk's last embers faded. The sky was a bruised canvas of grays and purples, pierced by the fiery bellows of two dragons. Below them lay Harrenhal and the Great Lake's mirror waiting to bear witness. One dragon was Vhagar, ancient, colossal, her scales tough as aged steel. Upon her back sat Prince Aemond Targaryen, one-eyed, fierce and prideful. Across the darkening expanse, Caraxes, leaner and more serpentine, rode by Prince Daemon Targaryen, cunning and wrathful. The two dragons circled, war cries tearing through the heavy air. Below, from the walls and towers of Harrenhal, watchers whispered prayers and curses alike. Alleys, rivers, swollen with child, watched from high on the ramparts, her eyes wide with dread at the fate unfolding. For a time, they danced warily, each testing the other. Vhagar's massive wings beat wind into storms. Her roar rattled distant hills. Caraxes darted like a viper, weaving through Vhagar's shadow, flames sputtering from his maw. Daemon urged him onward. Then the violence began in earnest. Caraxes lunged, jaws wide, clamping down on Vhagar's neck. Aemond screamed, struggling in his saddle as the blow took him by surprise. The sound of crushing flesh and splintering sinew echoed as Caraxes' teeth sank deep. The two dragons locked, twisted, and began to plunge downward, spiraling through cloud and wind. In that moment, all else fell away. No towers, no watchers, no lake, only the locked titans in their death spiral. As they fell, the battle turned even more savage. Vhagar lashed out with claws, ripping into Caraxes' belly. Her talons slit open flesh and organs. Blood gushed like wine across his scales. Caraxes writhed, agony twisting his long neck. But Caraxes hung on. His grip never slackened. With jaws still clutched around Vhagar's throat, he squeezed. Vhagar roared, her armor of scales cracking, sending shards of bone and gore into the air. Through the maelstrom, Daemon made a decision. He leaped, leaving Caraxes' saddle behind, and swung himself toward Vhagar. His sword, Dark Sister, caught the last light of day as he drove it home. The blade pierced Aemond's blind eye socket like a dagger to expose sinew. Blood spurted, hot and red, as Daemon's sword passed through skull and brain. Then the heavens themselves seemed to weep. Aemond's body went slack. Vhagar, racked with pain, let loose a final roar. All four, dragons and riders, fell. They struck the lake in a monstrous crash. Water boiled and roiled. The thunder of impact shattered mirrors of surface. Caraxes writhed, wounded beyond healing, dragged himself toward shore only to collapse into exhausted death. Aemond's body was swallowed by depths. No trace remained. In time, Vhagar's body was recovered, with Aemond's skeletal remains still chained to her saddle. As dawn broke the next day, the God's Eye lay silent. Its surface, once pristine, was stained with crimson. The towers of Harrenhal cast long shadows over the lake, shadows stretching across ruined ideals, broken bloodlines, and the silence of death. The watchers on the banks wept. Alleys, rivers' cries echoed through empty halls. The war that had consumed kingdoms now claimed its cruelest toll. In days that followed, the bones of two dragons and one prince were pulled from mud and water. Daemon's body was never found. Some whispered he escaped, others said his soul perished in those depths. The dance of the dragons lost its gravest moment that night above the God's Eye. A battle of blood and bone, where pride met doom, and the skies themselves drank deep of sorrow.